Igor Shesterkin turns in his best performance of the season, and the Rangers dominate on special teams to cruise to a 3-1 victory in Calgary. We're breaking it all down on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 926 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So to dive into the action here, first of all, let me say a lot more good than bad in this 3-1 win in Calgary. The Rangers now 2-0 to start this 5-game road trip here. So obviously, things are moving in a promising direction for this team. I do want to actually kick off today's episode, though, with a couple of nitpicks. I think, of the Rangers' first 6 games this season, and they're 4-2, things are going fairly well here. But of all the 6 games, and more so the 4 wins. We'll focus on the 4 wins because the game against Nashville was not good at all. But of the 4 wins, I think this is the one where maybe you can nitpick the most things. And again, that's not to say that the Rangers played poorly or they lucked their way into a win. Again, I thought they mostly had the better of play, and there was a lot more good things than bad things in this game. But there were also a couple of mistakes here and there, an unnecessary penalty or two, turnover at an inopportune time at an inopportune spot on the rink there. So a couple of things I wanted to get into here. And honestly, before I get into, the nitpicks, let me also just say that isn't it nice that we can do this as Ranger fans now? Because as recently as 2 years ago, the start of the season 2 years ago, obviously the Rangers that year surprised everybody, went to the Eastern Conference Final. But as recently as this exact moment on the calendar 2 years ago, we were still, as a fan base, in a place where we would take a Ranger win any which way we could get it, whether Igor Shesterkin was stealing a couple of wins, whether the Rangers got some puck luck on their side or, a fortunate deflection, whatever the case might be. We were happy to take a win any way we can get it. And we still are. Hey, a win is still a win the last time I checked. But, the expectations are higher now. You expect more out of this team. And the Rangers can go into Calgary, win the game 3-1. And as a fan, you still sit there and it's like, man, got the win, but they could have done this better. They could have done that better. It's a lot better to be in this kind of a situation where the expectations are higher. The expectations have clearly gone up the last 2 seasons and now 3 seasons if you count this one. So got that out of the way. And obviously, again, I think it's positive that we kind of have that mindset where we can still nitpick some things, but nevertheless still feel good about the win. But as far as things that, could have been better, stop me if you've said this before. Stop me if I've said this before. You've probably said it before too, but stop me if I've said this before. The Rangers did not get off to the best start in this game. I thought the first 10 or 12 minutes, getting outworked, getting outchanced. The forecheck was basically non-existent. Not winning any 50-50 pucks, just kind of back on their heels for the first 10 or 12 minutes of this game. And of course, that was also when they, gave up the first goal of this contest. That happened just a minute and change into the action here. And a little bit of a mistake, maybe some miscommunication on the part of Adam Fox, Philip Hedl. They both went to take Backlund, who was behind the goal line, kind of behind the Ranger net there. They both went after him, and it leaves Blake Coleman, who for some reason turned into Johnny Gaudreau in this game. Blake Coleman was all over the ice and getting scoring chances left and right. He scores here, actually ended up getting robbed by Igor a couple of times later in this game. But Coleman's right there. He's in prime real estate, and he scores, and he makes it 1-0. Again, just left completely unguarded, wide open in front of the Ranger net after Fox and Hedl both went to get Backlund behind the net. And then in the shift that followed this, the Flames get a 2-on-1, and Gustafsson kind of got pinching a little bit in this situation, I think, and very quickly, the Flames in transition go the other way. 2-on-1. Nice play by Braden Schneider here. He's been a little bit up and down to start the season, I think, but he did a great job defending this 2-on-1 here. Basically went down to the ice on his stomach, and the skater had no choice. He couldn't really shoot. He couldn't really pass either. His only way of passing was to attempt a saucer pass, which he did. Tried to get it to his teammate on the other side of the net there, but was unable to connect. So nice job by Schneider, taking away basically the pass and the shot, sliding across the ice there. Very nice play by Braden Schneider. But then, Blake Coleman, I mentioned him a second ago. Igor Shesterkin with a nice save on him on a tip-in try. This resulted after Kreider tried to chip the puck out of the Rangers zone and just was unable to do it. Basically gave it right to Mackenzie Weegar. Weegar then passes in deep to Blake Coleman, and Igor with a nice save there. And we're going to talk about Igor in a whole lot more detail later in today's episode. We're going through some of his saves right now, but he made plenty that we can talk about later. So don't worry about that. We will get to Igor Shesterkin in due time here. But then, Nazem Kadri on one hand, Braden Schneider didn't play the best defense on this play, but by that same token, this is a ridiculous move by Nazem Kadri. Moved around Schneider, backhanded it wide of the net. And then another 2-on-1 right after this, and Igor makes a save on Kadri. That was actually the same shift. So, yeah, a lot of things going on early in this game, and not a whole lot of them good for the Rangers. There were a couple different instances where the Flames had a decent chance to go up 2-0. And if that happens, you never know where this game goes from there. I mean, the Rangers could still come back, but obviously it becomes a little bit more difficult. And obviously Calgary's feeling a lot better at that point too, because they're off to an early 2-0 lead. I will say, though, the Rangers, I thought they did a really nice job picking up their play at the end of the first period. The final 6, 8, 9 minutes, somewhere in there, right around there is where the tide started to turn a little bit. Rangers got the forecheck going. You had Filip Chytil with a chance in deep, tried to go to his backhand, was unable to, tuck the puck home. And then Braden Schneider with 2 seconds left in the period. Mentioning Schneider quite a bit here. He puts a shot off the post, and that obviously stayed out, and the Flames are still up 1-0 at the end of the first period. So you're feeling really good about the way the Rangers ended the first period. And then what do they do to start the second period? Yeah, they take what is always an unnecessary penalty by the nature of a too many men on the ice penalty, which is what the Rangers took here. Now, look, there's 82 games. I don't think any team in hockey is going to get through the whole season without taking a too many men penalty. They're not robots. It happens, but it's one of those things when it happens to your team, you never feel good about it. It's always something of a mental mistake and an undisciplined penalty. And I don't think there's really any exception to that rule when it comes to a too many men on the ice penalty. So the Rangers take the penalty there. The good news is their penalty kill was on point all night, and they were able to turn aside at the Flames' chances on that one. And as far as other little nitpicks, I mean, again, just kind of sloppy with the puck a little bit. I thought the Rangers toward the end of this game could have closed with a little bit better authority. The Flames in the third period got a pretty nice push. The last 10 minutes or so, they were buzzing a little bit. Rangers held them off. More specifically, Igor Shesterkin held them off. Yet in the third period, a turnover by Mika Zibanejad, of all people, in front of the Ranger net, and that resulted in a scoring chance for the Flames. Igor was up to the task there. So, again, there's little things you can nitpick here. We mentioned the poor start. I guess you could say not the best finish. They kind of bent but didn't break. It would have been nice to see them close with a little bit more authority. And the penalties, a couple too many penalties in this game as well. But the Rangers overcame all those mistakes. That's another good thing. I mean, you don't want to fall into too many bad habits, but it's nice knowing that the Rangers can not have their A game and still figure out a way to, go on the road here and post a pretty solid 2-goal win over the Calgary Flames. Like I said, the expectations are higher now. And even after a win, we're going to, take a look at a couple things maybe that the Rangers didn't do so great. Again, it's not to say they were bad in this game. Far from it. This is overall a solid performance by the Rangers. But I want to, call out a couple of nitpicks here. And in just a second, we'll get to all the good stuff, all the fun stuff, including the Rangers dominating on special teams against a very good Calgary penalty kill unit. That's another thing. The Flames have a good PK, and the Rangers pretty much had their way with them. Also going to talk about Igor Shesterkin bouncing back from a rough most recent start against the Predators, and just looking like Igor Shesterkin. And that's the best compliment that I can pay him, is he just looked like himself. We're going to get to all that good stuff in just a second. But first, got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, we're going to go ahead and keep everything rolling here. Big thanks to the everydayers for always sticking around, and a big thanks to you guys for always making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. And for the everydayers, we're going to keep everything rolling here. I think on Thursday we might take a look at it's an episode I've been wanting to do, but I want to wait at least a couple of games into the season here. We're going to take a look at the new players on the New York Rangers and just kind of discuss how they've all fared. I think Erik Gustafsson, for example, is off to a great start. We're going to talk a little bit about him a little bit later in today's episode. And then Blake Wheeler, maybe not really off to the best start. He's been a little shaky and just not playing with a ton of speed, which is to be somewhat expected. But like I said, we'll get into the greater details of all that in the next episode. For right now, though, I want to turn our attention to the good things that happened in this game, and there were quite a few of them, including special teams dominance. The last couple of years, Ranger fans and Ranger not fans alike, Ranger critics or whatever you want to call it, they've kind of been pretty quick to point out the fact that the Rangers have a little bit of an over-reliance on their special teams units. The power play has been very, very good the last couple of years. We know that. The penalty kill has also been very, very good. 5v5, as far as like the other, elite teams in the league, the Rangers maybe not quite up to par with some of those teams playing 5v5. I do think 5v5 has been quite a bit better this season, but I will also say this. Don't ever feel like you have to apologize for the Rangers having an awesome power play, having an awesome penalty kill. Those are obviously enormous parts of the game. Something that we've talked about on here in the past is that special teams, I think they really play big when it comes to playoff hockey, especially the penalty kill. You'd have to look long and hard to find a team that won the Stanley Cup that had a bad penalty kill in particular. You can maybe survive a so-so power play, but that's obviously a huge part of the game. There's a lot of penalties called. I think refs tend to call things a little bit tighter than they used to. So any given game, you're going to get a good amount of power plays and penalty kills, and you're going to have to be at your best while those two things are happening. And as far as this game, Rangers go 2 for 5 on the power play. And in a roundabout way, I would almost argue that they kind of went 2 for 4 just because, they ended up with that power play at the end of the game. But at that point, they're up by 2 goals. They're looking to maintain possession of the puck. They had 2 defensemen out there, Fox and Gustafsson, which they normally don't do on the power play. I mean, they're both very good offensive defensemen. But the emphasis there is not on scoring as much as it is maintaining possession, cycling the puck a little bit, and making sure you don't give up anything to the shorthanded Flames. So either way, 2 for 4, 2 for 5. It was a good night for the Rangers on the power play. And keep in mind, the Rangers did this, the 2 power play goals against a Calgary Flames penalty kill unit that coming into this game was 21 for 22 on the kill this season. That was a key matchup that we discussed with Jess from Locked On Calgary Flames. And yeah, it kind of came to fruition here. That was a big time heavyweight matchup. Obviously, no team is going to go through the season killing 95.5% of the penalties that it takes, which was the case for the Calgary Flames. But be that as it may, Rangers were up against a good unit, and they came out on top there. So that was great to see. Also, the Ranger penalty kill. The Flames go 0 for 4 on the man advantage. And to me, it's not just the 0 for 4 that's impressive. It was the fact that the Rangers defended very, very well for the bulk of these 4 power plays that the Flames got. We talked earlier, and we're going to talk a little bit later as well about how good Igor Shesterkin was in this game. Most of his big-time saves were 5v5. There were maybe 1 or 2 on the power play, and give him props for that too. But for the most part, I thought the Rangers, they might have defended better on the penalty kill than they did at 5v5 for the large portion of this game. So that was great to see the Rangers up against the Flames power play unit and basically shutting them down, not giving them a whole bunch of great looks at the net. Clearing the puck, getting in passing lanes, blocking shots, the whole 9 yards. Thought it was a really good night for the Ranger penalty kill. But to take it a step further here, highlight the power play goals that the Rangers scored because they got 2 in this game. And one tied the game. The other gave them the lead for good. They both happened in the second period. They were both tip-in goals. The first one came after Jacob Trouba drew a penalty. He was actually in the Ranger zone, but somebody basically bear hugged him, grabbed him, took a holding penalty. And just like that, the Rangers are on the power play. And first unit doesn't score. The second unit is out there. They're doing a really nice job keeping possession in the offensive zone. The Flames had a chance to score here, and Lindholm basically messed it up. He shanked it. The puck hopped over his stick and went to Kaapo Kakko. So Kakko keeps the play alive. Then you've got Lafreniere carrying the puck up the right boards. He leaves it for Philip Hedl, and then Hedl makes a pass back to Erik Gustafsson. Gustafsson takes a shot. And Alexis Lafreniere is there in the crease, and he deflects it home 1-1. Second straight game with a goal for Alexis Lafreniere, obviously an encouraging sign. And as a quick aside here, we'll get to their second power play goal in just a second. But I love the fact that the next time the Rangers got on the power play, the second unit got to start the power play. And I'm not going to come on here and bash Gerard Gallant. There's certain things that he did that maybe I wasn't a big fan of. Overall, though, I am appreciative for what he did here. If nothing else, clearly he got this team pointed in the right direction. And, 2 years ago, an amazing run through the playoffs. But I swear, he would never start the second unit on the power play. The only time he would do it is if the first unit happened to be out for a long shift right before that, or some guys that make up the first unit were out there for a long shift right before the power play started and they were gassed and they needed a breather. The second unit is getting more opportunities. You watch these games develop, you watch the power play. When the clock's ticking off the power play for the Rangers, you're seeing the second unit get out there with 50 seconds left, a minute and 5 seconds left, a minute and 10 seconds left. Somewhere in that ballpark where it's not quite an even split, and I don't think it should be, but I do like the idea that the second power play unit is getting a chance. Maybe not quite 50-50, but they're getting out there with enough time to at least do something. And in this case, once again, being rewarded for scoring on the most recent power play, getting to start then the next power play. What was interesting here, though, the second power play unit started this power play. They do not score, didn't really do a whole lot, but the Ranger top unit comes onto the ice. They're cycling the puck. You got Fox passing to Panarin. Panarin approaches the top of the right circle. He passes in deep to Kreider. Kreider, instead of being in the crease and in front of the net, he's kind of along the goal line on the side there. But man, he can do this from any angle, from any side of the net or whatever. He just places his stick perfectly, redirects it into the net, and scores. Puts the Rangers on top for good at 2-1. And backing up for just a second here, the way the Rangers got in the power play here was it came about from what I think is the best play that maybe Blake Wheeler has been since he's been a Ranger. And again, he is off to a slow start, and we're going to talk about that in more detail, likely in the next episode. But on this play, he's got the puck, I think, just barely into the neutral zone and out of the Ranger zone, just past the Ranger blue line there. He plays the puck. He sees Trocheck up the ice, and he perfectly places a puck, chips it ahead to a spot on the ice, a spot of open ice where he felt Vincent Trocheck could get there first. And Trocheck, he's somebody that I think has underrated speed. So he picks up the puck in stride and goes in and is held. He might have very well scored a goal there, but he gets held. That drew the penalty against Calgary, and that led to this power play goal by Chris Kreider that I just described. So a nice play by Wheeler, nice play by Trouba there to set the whole thing up and get the Rangers on the man advantage in the first place. Moving along to the penalty kill and a couple of the highlights there. I'm not going to go through all 4 Calgary Flame power plays. I'll just kind of highlight a couple of things that I liked. The first power play, really nice play by Jacob Trouba here. The Flames are trying to gain the zone. They're going ahead with a lot of speed, going over the Ranger blue line, and Trouba breaks up the play. Vincent Trocheck is able to clear. We also had, this is probably as close as the Flames came to scoring, a little bit of a bad bounce for the Rangers because you've got Huberdeau driving to the Ranger net, and he took a shot that Trouba deflected, but the puck kind of just stayed there near Huberdeau. So Huberdeau got to take another shot. Just kind of bad luck for Trouba and the Rangers there. But Igor Shesterkin makes a save. We had Jimmy Vesey with a couple of nice pass breakups during this power play as well. One thing I got to say here, though, and this goes back to some of the nitpicks that I had for this game. This one put the Rangers shorthanded at the tail end, or no, the start of the second period is what it was. You got Vincent Trocheck. He makes a good play to cause a turnover in the Flame zone, but the Calgary Flame, he kind of backtracked, got control of the puck, and Trocheck's going after him, and he's just whacking away at him with his stick. I mean, he must have slashed him 2, 3, 4 times there, and the ref puts his arm in the air, and Trocheck's going out for slashing. I am tired of Vincent Trocheck taking bad penalties like this, and I say this as a big fan of Vincent Trocheck before he ever even came to the Rangers. I've mentioned this before. The everydayers will know this. Vincent Trocheck was one of my favorite non-Rangers in hockey, right up to the point where he actually became a Ranger. So I was really happy with that free agent pickup by the Rangers, and I'm still happy that he's here. I think he's a really good, well-rounded player, does a little bit of everything to help you win. He's got to stop this. This guy is 30 years old. There's no excuse for taking boneheaded penalties like this as frequently as he does. Anybody can have a brain fart every now and then and do something, but this seems to happen a lot. If you go back to the beginning of his tenure as a New York Ranger, so the beginning of last season, and you take everything that's happened from then right up to right now, he's got to lead the Rangers in bad penalties. And I don't know that there's really a way to quantify that. I don't know if people actually track that stat, but just watching these games, I don't even know who would be second. It just feels like he does this too often, especially for a veteran player. So he's got to be a little bit smarter there. The good news is there's another really, really nice penalty kill for the Rangers. They start with Mika, Kreider, Trouba, and Lindgren. Igor made some solid saves, but again, a lot of timely clears by these guys, a lot of just good penalty killing overall by this quartet here. We also had, later in the game, just a smart play by Nick Bonino. I think this is the last Flames power play that they had. It was getting late in the power play. There wasn't a lot of time left, maybe like 15 seconds. Puck drops for the faceoff, and Nick Bonino basically pushed the puck forward. Instead of trying to win it back, he immediately, just knocked it out of the Ranger zone, went down the ice, and that was it for the power play. So a lot of good stuff as far as the Ranger PK unit, the power play unit as well. Some penalties that they didn't need to take. I mentioned the Trocheck thing. I mentioned the too many men on the ice penalty as well. There was also a penalty that Cooley took where he kind of got Blake Coleman from behind. This one was a little bit so-so. And then Trocheck took another penalty later in the game as well. That one, at least you could understand. Rangers were back on their heels a little bit. He's trying to prevent somebody from scoring. But yeah, overall, the penalty kill stepped up big for this team, as did the power play unit. And I also wanted to mention this to kind of put a bow on this little segment here. So for those of you scoring at home, the Rangers in the second period gave the Flames 4 power play opportunities, and the Rangers won that period by a score of 3-0. That is not going to happen very often. Now, granted, the Flames also took 3 penalties, giving the Rangers 3 power play opportunities, and the Rangers scored on 2 of them, so that's part of the reason for that. But that's just not going to happen very often, where you take 4 penalties in the same period and win that period by 3 goals. But the Rangers were able to pull it off. Again, it just goes back to that theme of them not being at their absolute best in every aspect of the game, but still finding a way to get the job done, and that's what they did in this game. Going to keep everything rolling in just a second. We got to turn our attention to Igor Shesterkin and what I thought was his best performance of the young season. Also going to talk a little bit about Erik Gustafsson and some of the things that he's been doing to help the Rangers win in the early goings. You're going to get to all that fun stuff in just a second, but first, got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's talk about Igor Shesterkin. Everything he did in this game, by the way, keep in mind that he's coming off of a rough performance against Nashville. I realize the Rangers as a team basically just stunk against the Predators. Nobody really played well in that game at all. Igor obviously didn't have a ton of help, but he also let a couple get by him that I think typically would not. And when that happens to Igor, as rare as it is, I'm never more confident in this guy than I am when he's coming off of a bad performance. You just don't think that it's going to happen 2 games in a row. You think he's going to be sharp. You think he's going to be on top of his game. And that was indeed the case here against the Flames. I got to say, the most challenging aspect of this podcast, and I love doing this podcast. It's a blast being able to talk Ranger hockey, 5 days a week with you guys. Just a ton of fun. But the most challenging aspect of this podcast, the thing I run into more than anything else, is trying to come up with different ways, different descriptors, different adjectives to explain to you guys what you already know, and that is the fact that Igor Shesterkin is an absolutely amazing goalie. And we saw that on display here. Again, I've used every adjective in the book to describe some of the saves that he's made, some of the, just the amazing consistency that he's played with. In this game, he ends up stopping 24 of 25 shots. It's not an enormous amount of shots on goal, but I do think that this was kind of a case of quality over quantity for sure. I think anybody that watches this game would probably agree. Second period, I mentioned Blake Coleman and how he was kind of all over the ice. He scored Calgary's only goal, but Igor made a save on Blake Coleman in the second period, and I typed into my notes, wait for replay, because it was one of those where you could tell it was a really good save, but maybe you didn't have the best look at it. And then I see the replay, and really kind of a scramble in front of the Ranger net. Braden Schneider, again, we're talking about Schneider quite a bit today, but he made a great play preventing his guy from getting the shot away. But the puck, unfortunately, goes right to Blake Coleman on the other side of the net, and that's when Igor full extension to his right, kicking out his right pad, making just a phenomenal skate save there on a couple of stuff and tries by Coleman. Was able to get his skate right up against the post there. Then the third period, I mentioned Mika Zibanejad. He tried to skate away with the puck on this play. Rare turnover by Mika. You got Lindholm stealing the puck, passing to Huberdeau, and Igor with a sliding pad save to his left. And then even when the Flames pulled their goalie and had an empty net with 2:15 to go, I mean, Igor's flailing all over the place and making all these great saves. He's doing this while he doesn't have his stick. And we had a situation where Huberdeau kind of like accidentally on purpose knocked the stick away from Igor Shesterkin, kind of knocked it away from the net and a little bit higher in the Ranger zone. And then there was no accident here. You had Tanev. He's, obviously he's trying to position himself in the right place on the ice and potentially anticipating a pass, but he shoots the stick of Igor Shesterkin out of the zone, immediately gets called for a penalty for that. So the Rangers on the power play up by 2 goals with 1:36 to go. The Flames end up taking another penalty. So you have a rare 5-on-3 for the team winning with 1:02 to go. And it was pretty funny because at that moment, Sam Rosen basically called it. But when the Flames took another penalty to put them in a 5-on-3 situation and down by 2 goals, Sam Rosen said that's going to do it. I don't hear him do that very often before the game's over, but yeah, you know what? And never say never. I'm big on that. The game, if there's still time on the clock, you never know what can happen. When you've got a 5-on-3 up by 2 goals with 1:02 to go, you're pretty much home safe. You're not going to give up 2 5-on-3 goals against in a situation like that. But again, Igor Shesterkin, what else can you say? Just a fantastic night, and nice to see him bounce back from, a rough performance against the Nashville Predators. I also wanted to mention Erik Gustafsson because I just feel like he's done a heck of a job for the Rangers thus far. Hasn't always been perfect, maybe 1 or 2 miscues here and there, but for the most part, I think he's been great. We already talked about his primary assist on the goal by Lafreniere, taking the shot and setting Lafreniere up for the deflection and the power play goal. He also had a goal of his own in the second period. It boosted the Ranger lead to 3-1. Rangers were skating 4-on-4, cycling the puck, maintaining possession in the offensive zone. Of not shooting, though, not really shooting. Miller eventually leaves the puck for Philip Hedl at the point. You got Hedl skating to his right, toward the right face-off circle, and Hedl being a lefty, he has to turn to get the shot away. He doesn't want to backhand it from that far away because it's probably not going to work, but Hedl with a great shot here. Markstrom gets a piece of it. Puck trickles behind him, kind of just sitting in the crease there. Gustafsson sees it, and he gets to the puck before anybody on Calgary can, knocks it into the net, and gives the Rangers a 3-1 lead, which was, of course, the final score. But Gustafsson's been great. I'm Locked On Rangers and on Twitter, and probably you guys have had your opinions on this as well. Obviously, the Rangers, they bring in a handful of free agents to kind of round out this roster in the offseason. And we were debating, I was asking, guests on the show, who do you think the best free agent pickup is going to be for the Rangers? I figured it would be Wheeler, which so far it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Hopefully he can turn it around. We had 5 points vids on here. He was a big fan of the Bonino pickup, and I like that one too. And I think Bonino's played well. Maybe a couple of people thought Jonathan Quick just because of the intangibles, 3-time Stanley Cup champion and a little bit of a big brother to Igor Shesterkin, but it's been Gustafsson. I don't even think there could be a debate made. Tyler Pitlick's been only in the lineup in a couple of games. He's been fine, but Gustafsson's your guy as far as thus far having a positive impact on this Ranger team. He's kind of becomes a staple of the second power play unit. The Rangers went with a second power play unit that only included 1 defenseman last night against Calgary, and Gustafsson was that guy. But you look at what he's done so far. 6 games into the season, he's got 2 goals, 2 assists. I think he's played pretty well defensively. He's also a +5. He has blocked 7 shots. Now, it's very early to project season stats. Obviously, there's players doing things and there's teams doing things at a rate right now, 6 games into the season, that is not sustainable over 82 games. But if we take a look at those 7 block shots by Gustafsson, he is on pace for the second most block shots of his career, and the most that he's had since 2018, 2019 with the Chicago Blackhawks. And I mentioned this when I joined Gil Martin for a segment on Locked On NHL not too long ago, but show me a better free agent pickup for 6 figures. It's got to be 6 figures. We're not counting, the superstar players that were free agents. Show me a better 6-figure free agent pickup around this league right now than Erik Gustafsson. And maybe that player exists. I'm not going to go through all 31 teams and look at all the 6-figure, players, but Gustafsson has fit like a glove. It seems like a really savvy pickup by Chris Drury, and I'm just loving what I'm seeing from him so far. I think he's fit right in, and probably the best defensive defense partner that Braden Schneider has had to work with. So hopefully that bodes well for Schneider as well. Figure we can pretty much call it there. I do want to mention, a lot of you guys could probably tell, I'm dealing with a sore throat still. So a little bit of a grind getting through these right now, but doing the best I can. So thank you guys for kind of bearing with me and just kind of dealing with that as I try to get back to full health here. Yeah, again, I figure we could pretty much call it there. Once again, if you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, at LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's at LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.